Hello, everybody. Welcome to I'm Back at Work. I'm Mickey Feldman Simon. I am the founder of I'm Back at Work, and I'm very excited to have Tara Goodfellow here with us today. And before I go ahead and introduce her, I want to just cover a little administrative detail to make sure that you have control of your webinar panel. So if you look at your on your screen, you have the control panel. And Tara, can we move to the next slide, please?
Sure.
And on the webinar panel, you can see that yours will either be the small long rectangle on the side or the longer, the expanded control panel. And to open and close it, you use the orange arrow up the top. If you click on it there, you will open it and you will have the image on the left where it will open up. And you can also drag the webinar panel away on the side of your screen, just at the top of it, just click on it, and then you can move it aside so it's out of your way and you can watch the full presentation. We will answer any of your questions in the last 5 minutes of the webinar. And to type in your questions, just go into on the webinar bar, the gray bar there is a little triangle on the left. And if you click on that, you will open the questions panel, and then you type your questions in that blue rectangle right there, and we will address all of your questions in the last 5 minutes of the webinar. Now, I am excited to present to you Tara Goodfellow. Tara has an MBA, a CTACC, and Tara applies skills learned through her background in higher education as a C-level executive, a recruiter, and a college career development instructor to ensure that clients receive personal, targeted, and effective services that land results. Tara believes each person should apply his or her gifts and talents in their personal and professional lives. And Tara tries to support this effort through her coaching services. Tara has presented at many conferences. She has spoken at Microsoft's DigiGirls as the keynote, closing speaker to a healthcare organization's state conference, and as a presenter at the National Early College Conference, and this is just to name a few. She's been featured in the New York Times, Real Simple, US News and World Report, Fast Company, CareerBuilder.com, and LearnVest. It is our pleasure to welcome Tara today to talk with us on your plan for a successful job search. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much. I hopefully have compiled this presentation for you today that you will walk away with information that you can take and shift from a reactive approach to the job search process to one that's proactive, which will result in hopefully much better, stronger results and much faster. So when I work with clients, they come from either wanting a career change, it might be back to work, they may have been let go and need to find another position. So a lot of different scenarios, but I tend to hear the same frustrations and challenges with a lot of clients. So I've put together a lot of steps for you to take and to think about, things that sound very nebulous when people say, you know, make sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized, make sure your resume is targeted, what that actually means. Then at the end, I have a 2-page goal sheet that hopefully you can take and apply to your specific situation in job search. So we're going to head and get started. So what I mean by a proactive approach, what most people do is while they're watching TV at night maybe, or when they have some downtime, is I'm going to go online, I'm going to see what's available, and I'm going to apply based on what I see that sounds good, might be interesting, could be a good fit, instead of really kind of doing your homework up front. And what I mean by that is thinking about what you want in your next role. So instead of reacting, determine what would make me excited to go to work at least most of the days. And what does that job look like? What is the required skill set that you want to apply? What are the, gosh, it would be nice if I could go to work in this environment each day. For clients, I mean, this is as individual as each client that I work with. For some, the salary is a big thing. They might be a single parent. They have to certainly worry about benefits for their children. For others, it might be more of an environment. So what are those key things that basically are your non-negotiables? What matters to you the most? So instead of discovering after you apply for a job and get through the interview that it may not be a good fit, think about those things up front. Do you want an international corporation with a lot of opportunity for growth? Do you want something that's more flexible in terms of policies and procedures? Maybe a day telecommuting, those sorts of things. So if you lead with what you want, it's much more powerful when you're going through the process instead of what most people do, which is what I call the reactionary process. So think about those things, and however you want to record it. Some people journal it, some put it in the spreadsheet, but definitely if you dedicate some time up front, the results are going to be a much better fit for you, which will result in your career success. So kind of step 2 of the proactive approach. Once you've kind of determined, what do I mean by a marketing role? Do I want to be director or assistant? Then it's kind of taking those skills and trying to align them to target firms. So where would you like to work? Could be, a lot of times it's a culture. I don't want to be a number. I want to make sure I make a direct impact when I go to work each day. So based, again, kind of piggybacking on those required and desired skills, what is a list of target firms? So again, instead of that approach of, I'm going to see what's out there on Indeed, I'll take a look and Google some positions based on my previous title, it's where would you like to work? Where would you like to show up each day and work? So for most folks, some homework that I give them is to create a list of around 10 companies. Again, certainly if you're in New York City, that's much easier to do than, say, somewhere remotely in Idaho. I understand that. But think about kind of, okay, if I could select it, I would work here or here. Or I've always passed this company on my way home from getting my kids from school. I want to research that more. So kind of that list of companies that are of interest, either perhaps you've had a friend who's worked there, you might read about them in the local paper, different initiatives they're doing. And for some folks, that's easier than others. So if you're not sure where to start with the list, there are a lot of resources probably that you run into or look at each day, or at least have access to. So a lot of times a local chamber website, I'm outside of the Charlotte, North Carolina area, so Charlotte has its large website, large chamber information, but then so do the counties and towns around it. So if, say, location is one of your key things that you want to be close to home, then take a look at that chamber's website. It usually has a listing of the companies and also contacts. If what I hear from a lot of folks is I really want that flexible schedule, or one that supports that I need to make some accommodations and I need kind of a flexible schedule. So there are websites and lists that are for, say, your state's most family-friendly companies. So take a look at those lists and then kind of craft your list from that. You can do it, certainly however you want to drill down, again, depending on that initial list of what's important to you. So if it's location, you can think, okay, maybe if it's in this certain part of town, I'm going to literally just drive around for 30 minutes and jot down some companies. And then, certainly there usually are companies that have the strong reputations, or, you must have A, B, and C skill set to work here. So those sorts of things too. Sometimes, when it says a bachelor degree is required, some that absolutely that's a stopping point. For others, they're a little bit flexible based on work experience. So again, making a target list is step 2 of that proactive approach. You'll hear a lot, and especially this time of the year, read a lot of, I was just reading something this morning about 2017 trends in resumes. For a lot of folks that say maybe are going back to work after a 4 or 5 year gap, or have been with a company for 15, 20 years, a lot has changed with the resume. So in your job search process and mapping out your plan, definitely want to dedicate some time to the resume. What I mean by that too is one, not only thinking about what has changed, but also now you have a list and some clarity on what type of company you want to work for, what are your desired and required skills. So for one, an updated format, 2 pages is okay. It used to be, try to cram everything onto 1 page. More than 2 pages, typically not ideal. I have some, say, an engineer that lists just about every project that they've done. It's 18, 19 pages. If you think about, which it still stands true, that kind of 15 to 60 seconds that it's being scanned, you really want to make sure everything is targeted. Key terms, again, a lot of times folks that maybe are saying a career change, the resume is historically based, so that will be reverse chronological format, right? What you've done in the past. If you're making a career change or a shift, you want to make sure that it incorporates some of those key terms. Another thing that's changed over the last few years is having a select accomplishments section. So for that, you really want to make sure that you answer kind of when I'm looking at a resume, that's so what. So if you have achieved great results, what does that mean? Giving an increase in revenue, a decrease in expenses, process improvement. So you want to make sure now, instead of just submitting a resume online, you now are more focused. So you want to target your resume to align with those goal positions and ideal positions. For some, if it's not something that, let's say you're going from a different industry, then you want to focus on some of those transferable skills, right? So when leadership, management, those sorts of things, customer service are transferable for most industries. When I'm doing a resume and crafting it, these are the 2 questions when I'm given the initial information that I want to be answered. If I'm looking at a resume, I want to know, what's Tara's value add? What differentiates my resume from not sounding like a job rec to my actual goals and accomplishments? So definitely in the job search process, dedicate some time to updating your resume. Another thing you hear and read about often is LinkedIn. So I still talk with folks that, again, maybe are very senior level position, but do not have LinkedIn or never had to use it in the past and don't really see the value. This is kind of a guideline for that job search process to help you get your profile in a good position for folks to see it. So yes to a professional headshot, and by professional I don't mean it has to be a professional photographer. What I mean is you don't want it to be at a party and you cropped everything out except your face and somebody's elbow or shoulder. Make sure that it looks professional. That's kind of their first impression of you, so you do want it to look professional. Key terms, so just like anything else on the web, it's ranked, and SEO kind of aligns with different things. So one section that is really important is that title section. So you want to make sure that you have, again, based on what you've determined, those key terms, as well as a strong summary section. And I put key terms on here intentionally a few times because they're so critical. Position description. So if you have been, say, out of work for a while, you'll want to, I would suggest putting something for a current position. So whether it has been volunteering at a school, or whether it's been on a board position, or it's been something part-time. LinkedIn does look at your most recent current position the most. So I would suggest having something listed for current. With LinkedIn, you also want to maximize the 50 skills that you can get. So those are kind of drop down. So again, let's say you're doing executive administration. Once you start typing in some skills, you can kind of build that out as well. Get a couple testimonials on LinkedIn. So what I mean by that is the actual folks speaking of your previous experience, your expertise, your accomplishments. Not so much where you see the little skills that can be checked on LinkedIn, so those are different things. And then, certainly build your network. And we're going to kind of switch on to networking now, but I like to say LinkedIn is really an introvert's dream for networking. So where, some of these suggestions that I'll give are more public and kind of more the traditional networking options, LinkedIn absolutely is networking as well. So when I suggest to people, are you networking? How are you networking? Most people really don't enjoy that aspect of the job search process. But it doesn't have to be as intimidating and scary as we kind of, I think, make up in our minds that it is. So start with your current daily routine, your current network. And a network can be, your friends, your colleagues, folks that you interact with from church, whatever activities you do, maybe from, your children at the gym. So, another kind of piece of homework for the job search process would be thinking about who can I reach out to and let them know that I'm actively seeking employment. A list of networking events can get very overwhelming. So I usually give the advice, think about 2 or 3 organizations and go on a regular basis instead of looking at, say, a meetup.com and signing up for 20 and getting overwhelmed. If you can kind of dig deep into a couple of them based on your interests, just your hobbies, that's fine, your industry, again, the chambers, a lot of results from folks attending chamber meetings, and most organizations, even if you're not a member, you can attend 2 to 3 as a guest. So think about that as far as the networking. And what I mean kind of keeping with that proactive theme, by proactive networking, is, again, going back to our initial suggestions of the target position, the target companies, and connecting back on LinkedIn. So if you have, say, a bank that's on your target list, then searching for that bank for folks that are recruiters or human resources, or let's say you're interested in accounting within the bank, then folks within that accounting industry and department. When you connect to LinkedIn, do lead with the goal of building a relationship and not asking for employment. So that definitely is not going to kind of give people that encouragement to reach back out to you if it's already leading, I'm looking for employment. And that might sound like common sense, but even I get them on a pretty regular basis. So what you can do is state that you are, exploring employment and you're looking at their firm, as been doing research. Do they have a few minutes to speak? Those sorts of things too. The local events, absolutely. I would suggest, a business card, so it just can be kind of, something from Vistaprint or Sight Online or a local company, whatever you want to work with, and just bring that along with your contact information. If, even after hearing these suggestions, it is just extremely intimidating at the thought of attending a networking event, bring a friend with you. So there's no problem with just registering 2 folks for the event. As far as preparation, a few things too that seem to, are the most common catching people off guard with kind of the networking aspect is, a lot of times they will say, okay, now it's time for our 30-second speech. That, even for professional folks that are going to networking events regularly, can catch people off guard. So think about kind of what it is that you want to share if you are introducing yourself to people. Again, bring some business cards. A lot of times I just say create your own that might have a couple, bullet points of skills, your LinkedIn profile in the background, and certainly current contact information. With the networking for your friends, another thing kind of in the process is, okay, now that you've determined the industry, you've targeted the position, is reaching out to that local network and kind of leaving it too open-ended. So a lot of times, you might say, mention to a neighbor that you're actively seeking employment, your kiddos are back in school full-time kind of. So then they become, it's kind of awkward. It's kind of like, yeah, keep me in mind if you hear of anything, and you don't, because then you don't want to follow up, and probably they don't want to ask specifically what it is that you've been doing, right? So a lot of times if you mention it to a neighbor and they think, oh gosh, I've been neighbors with Tara for 10 years, I probably should know what she does. So if you can craft an email or kind of what you want to say and give them those guidelines that you've now created. So share with them, I'm looking for an accounting position within A, B, and C. So that's something too that you can consider doing, kind of that proactive approach. If you are unfamiliar with where you're going, let's say you sign up for a chamber event and it's at a restaurant, definitely reach out and say, hi, I'm excited to be attending my first Charlotte Chamber event. I was thinking about, this, and this. Does that make sense? So sometimes too, people are really caught off guard, and then either you wind up being late for it or something like that. So as far as network preparation, hopefully these tips make it a little less intimidating. And kind of why I kept with the theme of the proactive approach. If you continue with the reactive, I'll apply while I'm watching NCIS at night, that nationally is a 3% return rate. So out of 100 resumes that you send off, you'll hear back on average from 3. To me, that is super frustrating and very discouraging. So after you send off 30, 40, you don't start hearing things back. You start wondering, what have I done wrong? Why doesn't anybody want to hire me? When really it's not you, it's the way that the system works. So why I promote and kind of gave 2 slides on the networking is because that's really what's going to help kind of get you through that resume vortex. This being said, as you start networking and start attending events and start reaching out to folks, I don't want you to get overwhelmed with kind of, okay, who was I supposed to call back today? My neighbor said she'd have me reach out to this person. Think of some way, and whatever works more effectively and is efficient for you is the best. Again, some people just get a notebook. Others like Excel. Apps to keep things organized is fine. But one thing too, a lot of times I'll follow up with clients at a coaching session and say, okay, last week you were going to follow up with companies A, B, and C. How'd that go? Like, well, I wasn't really sure what to say. It seems a little awkward. So one thing is, certainly still apply online because human resources needs that application. So I'm not saying stop applying online and just go proactive 100%. What I'm saying is take a look. Let's say it's Wells Fargo and you apply for a position. So then follow up with that person, say that you've virtually met through LinkedIn or a contact that you have. So something similar to what I crafted typically gets it to that next level. So again, what I'm saying and suggesting here is apply, but don't stop at that application process and just hope that somebody calls you back. Reach out to somebody and state something. Last week I applied for marketing coordinator job, whatever number. I wanted to follow up, confirm receipt of my information, and I will follow up with you next Friday. Usually we'll get it through the process a little bit faster, and you get some feedback on how things are going. Maybe they've put the position on hold, they've hired somebody internally. So that should help with that. I have included career research sites. So if you're at the stage of I'm going to go back to work, but that's about all I've decided, right? That's where I am in the process right now. I'm struggling with making kind of that ideal position because I'm not sure. Some of these will help. I've put all of them on here that are free, so there is no charge to take these. The second one, the 16 personalities, is very similar to a Myers-Briggs, but it will give you an idea of, okay, based on this, I'll start looking for these firms, or this might be a really good fit for my behavior style. The occupation exploration is very extensive. This is something from the U.S. Department of Labor, so you can put in, okay, I know I want marketing, but I'm not sure what titles there are related to marketing. I'm not sure if it's marketing or PR I want, and type in and kind of drill down that way. So it's super helpful to give you some information. It gives you salary ranges. It includes things such as the outlook. So if it's one that's kind of trending towards more vacancies in the future, it'll let you know that as well. I got a lot of questions on, really, where should I be looking at the job search? Where should I find the jobs? Then there are lots of answers, again, very specific to your industry, to different geographic factors and those sort of things. But in general, I would suggest Indeed and LinkedIn. So with LinkedIn, you can apply directly on there. A lot of times it will tell you who has posted the position, so it gives you somebody to follow up with. And Indeed is going to be a database, so it's basically like Googling marketing assistant. It will pull from different sites. So instead of having to go on and save, say, 15 sites, Indeed will pull from a lot of different resources. So to wrap up, what I've done is kind of the outline of a plan. And, especially in January, right? It's kind of that new year, and new initiative month, if you just decide on a resolution, if you just declare it and say, okay, I want a new job, that success rate, and this isn't just specific to job, same, whatever your resolution is, that kind of general success rate is 8%. So what I've done is what takes it out of that low 8% and increases it quite a bit is writing it down. So the accountability is there, the focus is there, the details are there. And then certainly, getting a partner or a friend or somebody that can, at least kind of ask and check in with you also helps. So kind of sharing your resolution and goal for a new job is helpful as well. So this is something, and certainly craft it as you see fit based to your personal circumstances. But my goal is to obtain whatever the job title is by the month of whatever. So it could be, I want to be marketing assistant by next September. That gives you a time frame. Then the ideal position, again, this is just a sample, but based on what you call it kind of the ideal, is what is your compensation. Other key components that are important to you, A, B, and C. What would be ideal? It would be ideal if it was a casual work environment every day. It would be ideal if they had professional development where I could learn new skills and the company would pay for it. Whatever those are, write those down. And then, companies on your target list who either is of interest for you to work for or would you like to explore and research and learn more about. And then kind of fleshing out and finishing that outline of plan, some detailed goals too. Job application goal, okay, if you can break it into tiny pieces and kind of those SMART goals, that is absolutely going to make the process less overwhelming and not so daunting to kind of get to your computer and think, oh, I need a new job, I don't know where to start. So maybe it's 5 a week. And then the information interview is kind of back to companies you want to explore, positions you want to hear more about, and then a networking event. If you set it for a networking event twice a month, do that consistently, that's much better than kind of signing up for several and then not attending. Same thing, kind of a specific LinkedIn goal. Follow a certain number of companies. So just naturally kind of start building that network on LinkedIn. You also can still get, just kind of overwhelmed and flustered with the process. So build some fun into the process too. Something, I'm going to go get my nails done. Whatever it is, it can be your reward for getting through all your homework or something that you just know, okay, every Wednesday I'm going to do this. And also too, I get a lot of folks that once they don't, they don't understand, let's say there's a 3% rate of return. So return on investment for the reactive. So make sure that you understand it is not personal. You do these things and apply these techniques, and that should definitely help as far as the results. But keep in mind too that it is a very challenging process, and to give yourself a break when you feel that way. And that is the content that I have. So thank you very much, and I will take some questions if anybody has any questions that I can answer.
Well, thank you, Tara, for all that valuable information. We do have a question here. Any specific suggestions to really help the introvert job searcher?
Yes, and so most of the folks that reach out to me are introverted, and as soon as I say network, I almost feel like I have to grab them and say, don't run away, is the preparation. So if you can prepare and set yourself up for success prior to, let's say, a chamber event, then that can help. Kind of the bringing a buddy along, that can help as well. A caution with that too is you want to make sure that you're getting the value of the event and speaking with other folks. And really using LinkedIn. So with LinkedIn, you're not doing a lot of face-to-face initially. You're not even doing a lot of calls. It's email. So if you can craft that 30-second speech and give some of those details as to what you're looking for in a position, why their company is of interest, that's networking too. And that should be, less intimidating than kind of blindly going to an event where you don't know folks.
Right, I'd add to that that maybe start with one-on-one meetings that are often a lot less intimidating for the introvert rather than sort of the group networking events.
Absolutely. So the information interviews, absolutely, be a good way to start, and just as effective.
Right, right. Well, thank you again to Tara for all this very helpful information, and I invite you all to dig deeper into a lot of the topics that Tara mentioned and join some of our other webinars on updating your resume, improving your LinkedIn profile, networking, and thanks again.